The Township of Hamilton Committee meeting, Monday, June 21st, 2018. If you'll please stand with me for a flag salute.
John? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law by posting a notice of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building and by publication in the Press of Atlantic City on January the 5th, 2018, and the Atlantic County Record on January the 10th, 2018. Mr. Gishard?
Present.
Mr. Kurtz?
Here.
Mrs. Link?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
And Mayor Schenker.
Here. Can we have a moment of silence for private reflection? Thank you. Tonight we have a guest presentation, our Municipal Court Recovery Program, and we are honored to have our Honorable Michelle Verno, our Municipal Judge, if you'd like to come on up.
Would it be okay with you all if I kind of stood over here,
You can do whatever you want. Yep.
address the
Just
audience
remember
and
that if
address
you ever see me.
you all as well? Good evening. My name's Michelle Verno. I have the honor of being the municipal court judge here in Hamilton Township. And prior to that, I was the municipal prosecutor here for several years. During my time here, I saw a trend. And it was a trend that Judge Switzer had seen before me, but it started to change. And the trend was that there's an awful lot of shoplifting. And shoplifting, some people think it's a victimless crime, they're just taking from the store, but it has a huge impact on stores' bottom lines and on what we end up paying for things. Judge Switzer addressed that all while he was sitting on the bench here. In the last few years, it has started to take on a different tone. In addition to all the shoplifting, you'll look at someone's criminal history and you'll see shoplifting drugs, shoplifting drugs, shoplifting drugs. And you kind of see what's going on here. And I know everyone's been seeing in the paper and seeing on television the horrible, horrible opioid epidemic. Well, the Superior Court has a drug court program that's addressing this issue. And they have a lot of wonderful things in place. They have a lot of wonderful statutory tools that they can use to help people in this opioid crisis. Rather than sending people to jail, they're sending them to recovery. In municipal court, we don't have quite all the tools yet that they have in Superior Court, but we are, Hamilton Township is being utilized as a pilot program to be a municipal recovery court. And what we will be able to offer people is relief in their sentence. Say, in other words, if someone pleads guilty to an offense and they're going to get a jail term of 90 days. Well, we can suspend that jail term. They're still pleading guilty, but we suspend that jail term and they go into recovery instead. They would either go into an intensive outpatient program. We do have inpatient beds, and we have other social services to offer these people, anyone who wants to avail themselves of it. And we have one court a month at this point in time, the fourth Thursday, Tony will correct me if I'm wrong, the fourth Thursday in the afternoon. We have the Volunteers of America here, we have the Women's Shelter here, and in part of my opening speech, I invite everyone, not just people who are here as defendants, but anyone who might have an addiction issue, who might have an abuse issue, anything, they might have a housing issue. Volunteers of America and the Women's Center are here to help address those issues. So we're trying not to just help the defendants, but also, you know, people that might have given them a ride here, people who are with them, but we're trying to get people help before they're in a situation where they commit a major crime and they're in Superior Court facing prison. So it's our mechanism to try to help them now rather than later. And I think Tony can speak to the actual mechanics of it a little bit, if you would. Tony Tillman is our court administrator, and she's going to be keeping track of everybody.
Good evening. I had the opportunity to go spend a day at Volunteers of America to see how they actually work. I was very impressed with the things that they've offered people and the help that they have given to the people that have this drug problem. For instance, they had one that was there that came to visit them in September, and he told the one woman, "I'm ready to go." But she knew he really wasn't ready yet. Waited a few weeks, he came back and he says, "I really am ready now." He then went, they took him, they did the intake process, they took him to a rehab. He is one of their success stories. We actually saw him here, I want to say a few weeks ago, to address his payment plans. He made sure he called me, he made sure he was here for court, he kept in touch with the woman that's the representative at the Volunteers of America. This program is going to be really, really good. I think it's going to help a lot of people. We have seen such a rise in heroin, and it's just been bad. And we don't want people to fall into such a bad scene. We want to be here to help them. That's part of the job of being the court, to give service to the community. So we are going to have Volunteers of America here, which we already started. If the person feels that they need to go, right then and there, Volunteer of America, the representative will take the person, do the intake, and they'll take them to a bed. I think this is going to be a good program, and we are, as Judge Verno said, we are the pilot program. I am going to be keeping track, scheduling these cases, keeping track, being in touch with the Superior Court. We'll have a share point so that if somebody is in noncompliance, they'll let us know, and we'll schedule them right away. Hopefully, not hopefully, but I know this will work. It's going to take a lot of work on our part, but it's going to take an awful lot of work on their part as well, because they have to say, yes, I need this. This is what I want. I want a new lease on life. And we are the pilot program. We'll make it work, and then it's going to go out to the other courts in the vicinage, and if that flies, it's going to go to the state. So Hamilton Township will be the beginning of something new.
You've started already, Judge?
Yes, we started sort of a little bit piecemeal. Judge Sampson, who is the judge in the Superior Court who handles the drug court. What we've done is we send defendants who we deem are eligible for the program, we send them to Judge Sampson to hear his drug court speech, which if you ever get a chance and you're not doing anything on a Monday morning, it's a very moving speech over in the Superior Court, and it is open to everyone. And then at least one drug court session. And drug court sessions can get a little wild because you never know what people are going to say, because defendants come up and they tell their stories, and it can get very interesting. But Judge Sanson's speech is very touching and very moving, and he is, I don't want to say talked people in, but he has opened their eyes to the benefits of getting recovery and getting into recovery, and that's going to be also part of our program. Part of our program here in Hamilton is going to be they have to go hear Judge Sampson. And our whole goal is let's take care of this issue here in municipal court while you've got matters that can be taken care of with kind of small jail terms rather than in Superior Court where you're looking at prison terms. And hopefully it'll be a deterrent and help people as well.
Can I ask, the recovery usually can take a long time and can be very costly. How's that taken care of? How is it funded, and how long can you be associated with the recovery program?
Our program, we have 2 dedicated probation officers who are going to be overseeing this program. It's a year-long probation. Volunteers of America are going to also interact and set up this program and follow these people, and they will also be accountable. These defendants will also be accountable to these 2 probation officers who are dedicated to municipal court. Volunteers of America has vast resources. They have many grants. They have many options available to them. I was shocked that they could take a person from sitting in the lobby out there, take them into a room and have them evaluated for a drug issue And they got him into a program that day.
Wow.
Wow.
I've never seen that happen,
It's great.
ever.
You know why? Because it was never available.
Yes.
And that seems to be the issue that's been out there for a lot of people who want to go into recovery. It's never been available to the degree that it is today. What can we do on committee to support this?
Just get the word out. If people, you don't have to be a defendant to come and avail yourself of this service. If someone has a need, social service need, housing, opioid addiction, we will be here at 1 o'clock on the fourth Thursday of every month, except Thanksgiving and Christmas.
So how do
We'll be
you,
here then.
what's your relationship to the private sector? Because there are many private organizations that provide a similar type service, and it's usually quite expensive. So
Right
how do
now,
we,
We're guided under the AOC right now, so we're sort of under their umbrella, and we have to, anybody that's coming in to provide services has to be approved by the AOC. So the Volunteers of America had already been working with the courts in Superior Court. The Women's Center has been working with Superior Court and other municipal courts for many years, so those were the agencies we were sort of given. We didn't seek them out. Because we have to utilize what is given to us by the AOC. Administrative Office of the Court, sorry.
Well, I believe that this is a problem that we're all aware of. I mean, it's been out there for quite some time. It's been getting worse and worse every year. Our chief comes up and gives us stats year in and year out that are mind-blowing about how bad this epidemic is. And I want to just commend you for bringing this into our court system. This is really special. And, we all talk about how do we help? Well, this is a giant step to do that. So thank you very much. I appreciate what you've done.
Where exactly is the Volunteers of America housed? Where do they take the people to have a bed or?
They have beds in North Jersey, they have Hanson House, they have beds up in North Jersey in Bergen, oh gosh. John Brooks. They have beds in several places. They already have these set up. So
Are they local?
Volunteers of America?
Yeah, I mean, are they John Brooks and?
Right.
Yeah, I know my niece Jennifer Hansen is very much involved in recovery, but it isn't through you or through Volunteers of America. And they work extensively with the people recovering from opioid drugs.
Hanson House does an awful lot.
Yeah.
They really do.
So,
Any questions?
fantastic program.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks, Judge.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on. We have no additions or deletions. We have early public comment on agenda items excluding items listed for public hearings. Have anybody from public?
Joseph Corba, but he didn't put down the item.
The Mayor and Council, I'm Joe Corbo. I live at 40 Casco Road, Mace Landing, New Jersey. I just got a couple of questions about things that I heard happen and I want to have cleared. I understand that the town engineer walked Tavistock roads. I would like to know what roads they walked. Nobody has it in.
Steve?
I was actually out there again on Friday. The best time to look is right after rainfall. I was out there Friday. I've been out there probably 5 or 6 times in the past 2 months.
I'm asking you, what roads did you walk? Did you walk all the roads of Tavistock or only section 3 and 4?
Whatever sections are going to need work done.
Every section in Tavistock needs work. Section 1 and 2's roads are 14 years old, okay? And they're in just as bad shape as the roads in the back. They have cracks that are going as high as an inch, 2 inches, and they have starting to have potholes. This is, if you only do Section 3 and 4, you are putting your community peoples on Section 1 and 2 at a disadvantage. And the disadvantage is, if I have a house in Section 3 that's for sale, and I have a house in Section 1 or 2 that's for sale, and I look at the roads, I'm going to go to the house in Section 3, no matter what the price is. The roads need to be adjusted. And I'm asking you, we have bond money. The bond money says it is to be for roads, right? I, as a taxpayer and a member of the community, would like to see all of the roads of Tavistock done, no matter what our board says. And that's my opinion on this. And I'm open for any questions you want. What do you call it, Roger? Go ahead. Committeeman Roger knows me well enough. I stood here 14 years ago as the president of Tavistock, and we've solved issues. And we were solving some good issues at that time. So it's not that I am a here I come, just latecomer. I've been here for 14 years. Okay? Is there any questions?
Bob, you want to address this, please?
Yeah. Under the Municipal Land Use Act, the developer was obligated to post bonds, performance bonds. And as work gets completed, some of those monies get released from the performance bond based on a percentage of completion. The bond money is there for the purposes of completing the work that the developer was obligated to do in accordance with the decisions and resolutions of the planning board. In the negotiations of the bond litigation, it was brought to our attention there were a number of roads that just had the base coat and not the second top coat.
Correct.
That is what the bond money is supposed to be for as it relates to those roads. If a road was completed in Phase 1 and had a top coat, some of the bond monies at that time were released because it was a completed item. Now, having said that, our engineer is out there now before we even have court approval on the settlement. He's doing that as a courtesy to you folks so that when the contract documents are done, he can swing into action faster. I have completed the settlement documents. It'll be discussed in executive session tonight. I believe that if the board approves it, the committee approves it, it'll be signed off tonight. And I will tell you this, that there's $650,000, and what we intend to do is the most amount of work we can possibly do in your development for that amount of money. Now, there's some give and take in that. The council for your association has negotiated out of the settlement anything to do with the basins. So there's going to be no money for that. And that's your choice.
Chairman, may I excuse
You may,
you?
sure.
Their basin money is gone. You released the basin money when it was done. The basins were never supposed to be in the bond issue that we're talking about now.
I didn't
The
really say
bond issue
anything,
now
sir.
that we were talking about was for roads only, and the sidewalks or anything like that, and landscaping that had to be repaired. There was nothing in about the bonds. Your previous engineer is the one to stick his head in those bonds, and he should have stayed there, as far as I was concerned, because he never did the right job. He never did the right job between the houses. We, as residents, fixed into swells in between the houses, so we weren't up to our ankles in water or in mud when it rained a half an inch. Now, the next thing I understand what you're saying. I know what you're talking about, Mr. Sandman, but I say, okay, you were only going to do the other two. I would like at this time to go to the committee and say, when are you going to repair the roads that are 14 years old? That's all. Put it in your budget next year. I don't really care. I've been paying for the road in my taxes that to be cleared and to be fixed. And neither of that has been done. Even if it's only $1 a month. We were talking 14 years of paying for this. And the interest on $1 a month for 14 years is enough to repave our roads. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Anyone else, Mike?
That's all, man.
Discussions, formal action may be taken, resolution to support Hamilton Township Historical Society, historic site marker.
Mayor, I had asked our administrator to put that on the agenda, and for the sake of the public who doesn't have the copies we have, would it be okay if I commented on that resolution?
go
So
ahead.
they understood it? The resolution we're talking about is actually on August 11th, 1880, Mays Landing was the site of a catastrophic railroad accident resulting in 27 deaths and countless injuries. The Hamilton Historical Society proposed production of a video documentary and the placement of a historic marker at the accident site to pay respect to the accident victims and the Mays Landing citizens who selfishly assisted the said victims, as well as to educate the public about this tragedy. The Hamilton Historical Society has applied for a grant to fund the said documentary and has requested the assistance of Atlantic County for the site cleanup and placement of the said marker, which would be on county property at the end of Taylor Avenue. So what we would like to do is, we're getting this resolution done so they have this when they approach the county, which I understand, Carl, they're going to do shortly. Is that? Probably next week. So that's basically the purpose of the resolution, is for us to pass the resolution of support so that they can go to the county with it and in turn get what they need to put that site marker in the proper place. Okay, so that was the basis of it.
A question? A question for you?
Sure.
Excuse me. I'm just curious how there really aren't any provisions in that little area for much traffic. I'm just wondering how people would observe the marker.
Well, Carl might be able to address that, but the bottom line is that getting the marker placed, it's also part of the neighborhood redevelopment plan, which plans a bicycle paths and other things down by the old train trestle as a passageway. So getting the site marker out there, I would say, their thought is to get it in the actual spot where the accident occurred. Is that correct? Rather than at another location. So I'm thinking in conjunction with the redevelopment plan and the future of the bicycle path, that I think it would be an area where it would get traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Carl, is this part of your book?
No, can I comment on it?
Sure.
I truly have become to believe that this was one of the most historic and tragic things that happened in this town. It was the least reported
Yes,
on.
indeed.
So that's one of the reasons why the Historical Society took it on. Mari Gattaro is the lead investigator on this, you might say. She's the one that's been doing most of the research, of course, along with myself. We feel that long-term, this would do something for downtown. I would very much like to see a setting like Richland has with a train car sitting on some tracks down by the old station. I know there's been a million proposals and several plans started and never finished for that area. Some in the county feel the same way I do. They've been part of some of the development there before that never came true, and they're looking for this maybe to be a starting point. There is some parking at the old train station. It still has asphalt on it. It probably would hold 5 or 6 cars. This is not something that we would, see large crowds coming to until the provisions later on were made possible for it. But there's site markers out in the middle of the woods, that you have to hike to, and at least it does give a little bit of interest in this, in the public, to let them see what happened. We're planning August 11th of this year of actually dedicating that plaque, you know, if and when it does come true.
Is the county going to clear out that area, the way to the marker? Is that the
Well,
idea?
there's no clearing to be done. The marker will be right on what is left of the railroad tracks. This accident happened, the point of impact was actually on our train trestle bridge, more to the east side than the west side. So, you know, we're trying to make it historically correct. It took a lot of research to find that point. What basically happened is just west of that river, there was a siding and our uptown station. For those of you that, you know anything about the railroad system in Mays Landing, the uptown station was there for the cotton mill and also the public. When the first train pulled into the uptown station, he had 2 cars longer than he thought, the conductor thought there was on that train. The last 2 cars did not fit inside the siding. When the engine lined up where it was supposed to be, it left 2 cars out on the track. The end of the last car was on the actual trestle. Another train coming 5 minutes later, which was a mistake, did not see the train in time, and by the time he applied the brakes, there was a rainstorm, the tracks were wet, he slid, and it went right into the back of that train car. The engine actually rammed and telescoped right inside of the actual car. There was only about 4 deaths from the collision, but within 4 or 5 minutes after the collision, the boiler exploded on the second locomotive, which is what killed the rest of the people.
It's amazing when you think about it. According to this cover letter here, records show 1,400 parishioners of men, women, and children were all booked on an all-day excursion to the shore. It's amazing how much traffic.
Yes. There were more people on that train than lived in Mays Landing at that time.
Yeah, most of them were coming
More
from,
than the residents. And
where they're
the
coming
American
out of
Hotel
camp.
and the Baker Hotel were used as makeshift hospitals.
Yeah.
Philadelphia sent doctors down here to staff them and nurses. A lot of people opened their homes, citizens opened their homes. We're still, as of Sunday, or Saturday, we spent the day, Maury and I, up in Philly at St. Anne's Parish discussing this over with their people. And there's still parishioners in that parish that were relatives of people on that train.
wow.
So it's,
Is there any photographs of anything?
no.
No. Nothing, yeah?
That was at a time when you had to have the flash pan and everything else, so nobody could run down there and do a cell phone, shot.
Or
And,
selfies.
I think by the time, there's a lot to the story, but, and it was kept kind of low-key with bad publicity. We had a new railroad, it was only 2 months old. They didn't want the bad press. Atlantic City didn't want the bad press because these excursions were their lifeblood.
Right.
The documentary will really be exciting. I do have with me this is a 15-minute trailer I'd like to leave maybe with the council. This was made for the grant. They wanted to make sure we had the wherewithal to produce a professional documentation or documentary. This is a 15-minute story. It overviews the whole thing. Some good shots of Mays Landing. It's professionally done with a drone flying over the tracks and everything. So I'd like to kind of leave that with somebody. Is that
Hey, Mike?
We'll leave it with Mike.
What year did you say that was again?
1880.
1880, August 11th.
1880.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
railroad
Very
opened in
noteworthy.
June, and the accident happened in August.
Amazing.
Now, after that, there was still railroad movement between Atlantic City and,
Yeah, this was cleaned up in a couple of days. For some strange reason, the engine that was the most damaged was put on another railroad car and taken all the way to Patterson, New Jersey, which is kind of one of them, I think, out of sight, out of mind things. That's what we
Amazing.
believe, anyway.
yeah, because the gal that we bought our house from, she used it daily to go back and forth to Atlantic City. She was a
My mother went to
teacher.
high school on it in Pleasantville. But anyway, we're hoping this leads to something. The county park is a little bit excited
Okay.
about it because this is their property. It's something that may, add to that area. Long-term, I'm hoping it does something for our downtown district. It gives a start to an area that actually should be used for something rather than keeping everything down there. It's grown up and overgrown. There are some bushes that have to be trimmed, and we're looking for maybe a little landscaping, but you can still walk along where this happened and go right to this side of the trestle and, be right at the spot, so that's where the sign's going to go.
Good.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Carl.
Mayor, I could support the resolution for Hamilton's Historical Society for a historical site marker proposal for Taylor Avenue.
I'll
Second
second
it.
that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Excuse me. We have a public hearing, adoption of ordinances, ordinance 1877, 2018, and ordinance amending Chapter 173, flood damage prevention of the Township Code. Mike, you just want to review this real quick, or Phil, please?
Phil, do that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
This ordinance will update the flood damage prevention ordinance to officially adopt the long-awaited new flood insurance maps. We've been working on those for 7 years now, for a 2-year process. And they would become effective on August 28th. Again, the level of detail provided on the new flood maps is much greater than on the ones we have now. We're going from 6 panels covering the whole township to now 35 map panels. Some of them very detailed, some of them covering a larger area. The information is based on using LiDAR technology as much as possible. In general, there's probably an overall reduction in the areas of the township that are affected by the flood zone designation, but some areas it expands. With the information provided by the state, as an example, in the tidal area, that is from below Lake Lenape down to the township boundary, there's a net reduction of 25%, or approximately 48 dwellings, or 48 fewer buildings that would be in the flood hazard zone as of August than are now. So there probably will be overall reduction in the area.
Phil, is the date of August 28th, is that for insurance purposes, people who were in the flood zone and no
Right.
longer are in the flood zone? That's the date that their insurance would be able to give them a break?
That's when it changes, yes.
Yeah,
FEMA issued the letter saying you can adopt the ordinance on February 28th, so it's 6 months from that date.
I
That's
got
when they become effective.
effective, okay. That's great. That's good news for some people that are trying to get insurance on a property that, or have
Don't want to get insurance
now.
on a property where they don't have to, right?
In order to find out where these apply, what would you go on the website or the FEMA website, advisory flood hazard?
You'd be able to find out on the FEMA website. They do have a link to the new maps there. You'd be able to get the information there. We have copies of the information in our office.
Copies.
I will be working with our IT department so that we could be able to prepare what they call firmettes, which are small copies of the map for a specific area rather than the whole large panel, and be able to provide that if folks need those. But FEMA does provide all that information through their website.
Okay.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the ordinance.
So moved.
Well, this is
Got to
a
introduce, right?
public hearing. We
Oh, I'm
gotta do
sorry.
public hearing, that's okay.
I move we introduce the ordinance.
No.
Does anybody on the public like to speak?
Yes, is this ordinance part of the strategic planning committee from 10 years ago? Dr. Kesselman's strategic planning committee, 8 years ago?
I don't think it was part of the planning committee, but it was discussed at committee level, and also with the Historical Society and how it affected properties within that district. So it has been discussed previously, and we had sample maps of what would really happen. It wasn't adopted, am I correct, Phil?
Correct. This is generated through the FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It's an update of the maps that have been in existence now since, I want to say, September of 1977, so we're dealing with, 41-year-old flood maps now.
God, really?
Yeah. So it's part of their mission to bring these things up to date. And as I mentioned to committee, I think a couple weeks ago when I was here discussing contents of the ordinance, we'll be adopting this ordinance now, but FEMA's already started on the next update. So that's probably another, with luck, 3 to 4 years till the new maps would be coming in.
So this has nothing to do with the master plan adopted back in 2010?
No.
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 Anybody else in the public like to speak?
Motion to close public portion?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have, can we go to adoption?
I move to adopt it.
We have a
Second
motion.
it.
We have a second.
Second.
We need a roll call for that, Rita?
Yes. Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and adopted.
Thank you. Awards, award of bids, contract change orders. A, resolution accepting a proposal of Engineering Design Associates dated April 20th, 2018 for engineering and construction management services for the 2018 road program, not to exceed $85,000.
I move to accept it, to award that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
I'd just like to thank Steve for the work on this, and also the fact that that we have an aggressive road program like we've had in past years, but this year is a nice amount of roads being handled, and I appreciate this coming in at the bid that it did. My answer is yes.
Mrs. Link?
I would also like to say yes, I understand this is a very fair price, and it's going to make a lot of people happy.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
We move on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, item 7A through item H.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We need a roll call for this? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, the ayes have it. Personnel, resolution to transfer Allison Rutledge to full-time communications officer from full-time communications officer to part-time communications officer at $15.92 per hour, effective April 29th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Thank you. Approvals, minutes of regular meeting, May 7th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Minutes of executive board session, executive session, May 7th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
C, payroll and bills, bill list total, $2,490,004.61.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
Move on to reports. Mr. Administrator.
I really don't have anything to add to my written report, other than they did do some painting out of the hockey courts today. They got 2 coats on each court.
Two
So
coats,
there's-
right?
Yeah, there's 1 coat left, and then the striping to go after that, so.
Good.
They had a lot
Very
done
good.
today.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor.
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Engineer.
Yeah, Mayor and Committee, I have a few items. I just want to report on Tavistock. We've been out there, we've begun survey work. I've been stopping out there on a regular basis, look, especially after rains, to see where the real serious drainage problems are. I'm doing this on my own time, because I know if this gets resolved, I think the mayor and the committee are going to be telling me to expedite my schedule, so I figured I'd get a good jump start on it. So
great.
I've been out there, some of you might have seen me, but I'll be out there a lot more coming up. The next item is Volunteer Way right-of-way, where when the connector road went in 2 years ago, Volunteer Way, where the cul-de-sac used to be located, that's still currently a township right-of-way. It was converted to just a grassed area. The developer, Buffalo Pike, at the request of Brian Keene, a neighbor out there, added some additional landscaping, but there's some land out there that's in the right-of-way that's just a grassed area. I was asked to take a look at that, and I've been in contact with Brian Keene. He's interested in receiving half of that municipal right-of-way. On Friday, I asked the owners of Buffalo Pike Associates that were here, I asked them if they were interested. They're going to take it back, they'll look at it. They seem to be interested, but I'll wait to get formal word on that. If that's the case, we could start the procedure for taking each half of that old municipal right-of-way and directing it or giving it to adjoining property owners. So I'm working on that. Buffalo Pike Associates came in on Friday morning to discuss another administrative approval, and the administrative approval was they were requesting 3 paver areas in front of, apparently they're going to have 3 restaurants. One we know is going to be a Starbucks. The other one, they're not giving a name, but they're saying it's a breakfast and lunch place. We don't know what the third one, we know less about the third, but we granted on Friday an administrative approval for 3 outside paver seating areas. After that meeting, they asked for a pre-construction meeting, which is now scheduled for Thursday of this week. So they're likely to start construction next week out there at Buffalo Pike.
Steve, are all 3 of those sites on that side between Volunteer Way and Renaissance?
It is, it is.
Okay.
And then that'll open up Renaissance Drive once they're completed through?
The major part of their project is that connector road. It's very expensive. That completes the...
That'll complete that, all the way through to the
That'll
traffic
complete
light
and
to Hamilton
change.
Commons.
Yes.
And hopefully that'll balance the situation between Kate's, Renaissance, and Volunteer Way.
Right.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
Great.
Next item.
You got to work on them to give us some names.
No Panera or
Every
anything
day I
like
ask.
that?
They want us to keep tuning in, that's what
Yeah,
it
keep
is.
tuned, stay tuned.
Steve, I just have one question. You spoke to Mr. Keene, and we had discussed that there's a couple other properties there that have, is their situation similar?
I called Brian over the weekend, and I tried to get the names and phone numbers of his neighbors across the street. It's the same situation. He didn't know that the phone numbers, but I'm going to look it up in the tax records and stop out there. There's 2 other property owners. One is probably about a 5 square foot area.
Yeah, it's
It should be
minimal.
insignificant to either property owner. I hope, I hope they go along with this.
Okay. Yeah, because I'd like to see it, if we're going to clean that up, let's do it all in one shot,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yes,
All
we
right,
will.
thank you.
Next item on my list is Malaga Road. About 2 years ago, there's a ran gas mains down Jackson, and they came around to Malaga Road. There was a pretty large diameter tree, and Brett Knoll warned them and took photographs and said, you will be killing that tree, running a gas line so close to the tree. Well, it took close to a year, but that large tree died. So Brett and I have been asking the assistance of South Jersey Gas, and last Thursday, the JF Kiley went out there and they removed the tree. If you were on Malaga Road, the first half of the day, Thursday, they had set up to remove that tree, so that tree is now.
They destroyed it, they should remove it.
Exactly.
Did they replace it?
Well, they're going to replace it.
We haven't asked them to replace that tree. It took quite an effort to get them to just remove that tree and cut it flush. The tree was actually right up against the edge of the road. It was between a 4-foot-high chain link fence and the edge of the cartway. So I don't know that we have room to put another tree that could grow and cause problems 30 years from now.
Right. Okay.
Old Egg Harbor Road, Anne Marie Leone came in 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
I met with her Friday morning. I looked at the basement again. It's still flooded from, just like she's been telling us. What we worked out is she has turned her engineering files over to me by email. She did that over the weekend. So I told her I'll study that and keep the communication flowing with committee and Anne Marie Leone.
Okay, thank you.
And the last thing I have is just McDonald's opened up, which was a nice day a couple weeks ago.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Did a good job there.
There was a lot of people who were jonesing because McDonald's have been closed for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. All right, very good. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Township Committee, Judy?
Well, I just got back from Las Vegas, and I saw that the McDonald's is exactly the same in Vegas as it is here. All the McDonald's have been changed.
With
to
slot
look
machines though, right, Judy?
alike.
Yeah, that's-
What? I didn't test any
Okay.
to see if they were all the same food. But personally, I like the old ones better, but it was more colorful. But at any rate, it's a great addition. I was noticing here that there have been groups of foxes located in Ocean City. Well, on Liling Lane, there are a small group of fox that are living right not far from here. And I don't know, if we should let the county know, because it's right there where the county property is. They're very elusive. They're not, creating any problems. And there's only, as I understand, a few of them, but there are fox there. I see that somehow I didn't get to the green event again, and I'm wanting to just take all the boxes that are in my basement and have them shredded. I will do that next year. That was a great project, and I'm sure it helped a lot of people, as well as, it's a sort of a fire prevention item as well. So, you can have a lot of papers that are not really necessary. So I promise next year I will fully participate now. Rodney?
Very
Fully
good.
participate in
Gonna
the
hold you to
Green
that.
Tree event. That's a promise. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Judy. John?
Sure, I'd like to touch on a couple of things. First of all, the president of the Merchants Association, Fred Nebel, asked me, he couldn't be here tonight, if I would just discuss the hometown celebration a little bit for him. And the hometown celebration is Saturday, June 30th. And at the few past years, we've had requests to move the hometown celebration back to the main street in Mays Landing, where it used to be prior to the big celebration. That was the reason we moved it out to the lake. That's going to happen. The hometown celebration is going to be held on Main Street from the corner of Farragut, from the corner of Main Street and Route 50 up until Farragut Avenue at the courthouse, and the use of the Memorial Park in total. So not only will the street will be closed down on Main Street from Farragut to the corner of Main Street, where there can be things happening right in the middle of the street. Traffic will use the River Drive as a way to get out. So it's just for the one day, but it ought to be very nice. There's a lot planned, as usual. There's going to be a new car show this year, done with showcasing new vehicles. 2019, if they're available, but 2018 vehicles from mixed dealers throughout their Jersey area. They'll be parked on Main Street so people can come see these new vehicles, look at them, discuss the vehicles with members of the dealerships. And then the regular things, the train ride for the kids can be a little longer and go up around the courthouse. So it's going to be a good day. They have bouncy houses, a lot of vendors, food trucks parked along Main Street. So the president of the association, Fred Nebels, would just like to invite everybody out to enjoy the hometown celebration back on Main Street. And that's really it. I don't have anything else.
So we're to assume there's nothing from 50 on down towards where Wheaton's is?
That is correct.
That is correct, okay.
Thank you, John. Roger?
Yeah, Judy, just a question. Did they have slot machines in the McDonald's in Vegas?
They did.
Okay. I'm telling you, the first time I went to Vegas, you couldn't turn around. They were all over the place. The minute you got off the plane, they were there. I think when you look at what McDonald's did in our community, you have to congratulate them for reinvesting in our community. They spent several $1 million in there, I'm sure. And
Yes.
the day that we were there and we all had an opportunity to cut the ribbon, it's amazing how much technology plays in even the fast food business. I mean, I was impressed with the whole setup, and hopefully they'll do very well there. The other thing I'd like to do, just call attention and acknowledge two of our police officers, Officer Mueller and Odell, who were part of the Police Unity Ride to Washington, D.C. this year. And I know it's a long ride, and I compliment them for their diligence and the fact that they do volunteer to do this, and I know several other officers have. So it's a lot to do. And Chief, would you tell them we appreciate their efforts on behalf of what they do for the department and the recognition? I guess by now everybody around here is water soaked. I know today I had the first chance to cut my lawn in about 12 or 13 days, and I suffered. And I know, Brian, you're sitting there, and I just wonder what the baseball fields look like. And I know it always, even on a 2 or 3 day rain, what it used to be there when my kids were playing. So there was a good article in the press the other day also, if you read it. I mean, Middle Township and many of the townships, I think, suffer the same plight of too much water and not enough places for it to go. And the gentleman sitting behind you, Brett, I'm sure we still haven't heard or seen the effects of all the water upstream yet, have we? And that'll be coming for what,
Yeah.
about another week? It's nice to know, though, that our area, even though we've gone through a lot over the years, I mean, we've gone through derechos, where we've seen millions of dollars worth of damage in our municipality, the quickness to which we were able to put it back on its feet. Flooding incidents, we've had them. We had the 97 storm, which knocked out Gravelly Run, knocked out Sugar Hill, and I think through the efforts of a lot of people, we were able to withstand that also. And then when you hear about a train collision like this, how many of us know the history of this municipality? Not a lot. I mean, we celebrated our 200th anniversary back in 13, and it was quite an anniversary. And I think when you look at it, to be able to live in a community that's rich in history, our Presbyterian church is over 175 years old. That's rich, and there's a church up in Deep Run in Weymouth that is 212 years old. I think when you look at this community, you have to be thankful for the fact that people are still coming here to invest. Businesses go under, new businesses come in and replace them. So that speaks a lot of what's going on here. And I think, I, for one, who have lived in this community about 38 years now, have been very thankful for what's happening here. And just one last word, Joe, the one positive thing about this situation is once the streets are taken over by the township, we pave roads, okay? So it's something to keep in the back of your mind.
You and committee, I will hold you to that word.
Listen, you go to church and pray for us, that's all. You hear me? That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Roger. Rodney?
Yes, thank you. Regarding the police unity riot, that was mentioned, it just brought to mind the fact that on Wednesday, I was traveling down Route 50 and I saw all these, and that was pouring rain, and all these cyclists were coming down Route 50 in the rain. So I'm sure that wasn't much fun, particularly since I think there were all the other days of rain. So I really want to congratulate the people who participated in that. Some of you may recall or may know that just recently the ATCA, the Air Traffic Control Association Technical Symposium, was held in Atlantic City and and sponsored by the Technical Center, or hosted by the Technical Center. This is an event that attracts hundreds of people from around the world. You've got top companies that are there. You have all kinds of international work that's conducted there. Just to give you an example of how serious this is, the booths are, what is that, $5,700 per booth. And there were many, many, many booths. So this is a real serious event, but it highlights the kind of work that goes on at the Tech Center, international work with top people from around the world. You know, we just heard about this accident, this train accident that involved the deaths of 27 people. Now, when you think about air traffic control, we recently had a situation where somebody was sucked out a window. But I think for this year, that may have been the only death. We've had years where there hasn't been one death on a regularly scheduled air transport aircraft. That is absolutely incredible because we're talking about billions of miles. But a lot of that is a result, believe it or not, from our local tech center and, of course, from other FAA and airline-associated people. So I don't even know whether people here in this area are aware of that, but there's all kinds of great stuff that goes on there. There's great jobs, and we got to make our kids aware of it because there are great opportunities there. I told our superintendent, I mentioned to him that I participated in the South Jersey Science Fair, and I didn't see anybody from our area there. Well, he's invited me to a science fair at Hess, which will be on the 14th, I think. And then after that, we're going to have some discussions about possibly expanding it to other areas. But there is stuff here, and we got to get our kids aware of it. One of the events that I just have to mention, one of the events that one of the people who attended the Air Traffic Control Association was a young female pilot who came from Afghanistan here as a refugee when she was 1 year old. And her family was very deep into Afghan values, and she was raised in those values for the majority of her life. Now she's 30. But she's described as brilliant, as one of her mentors, Jill Myers, who's a tremendously accomplished woman, aviator, is sort of sponsoring her. And this lady, she came here, she was not that, she was a C student. She didn't have much ambition because back in Afghanistan, you can get a college education and everything else, but then you go back and you just become, you don't get jobs or anything. So she didn't have that ambition. But she took a trip flew down to Orlando, and when her relatives asked her what she wanted to do, she said, I want to learn how to fly now. She learned how to fly. And she learned how to fly to the extent that she is now the first woman, she's the youngest woman to fly a single-engine airplane around the world. She flew a Bonanza around the world, single-engine airplane, and what she did was inspire and motivate females and others around the world to accomplish what they can. She's a very, very inspiring. You're going to hear about her in National Geographic, but that was a very inspiring
She
story.
also came here for asylum, too.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, she was,
Yeah,
her life was threatened, and her
Oh, yeah,
family's
yeah.
life was threatened also. There was a story on the news about her.
yeah,
Very inspiring story.
yes, her name is Waze, her last name. And she was one of the lucky ones that were able to come here. I want to just remind you of Memorial Day. In fact, the Veterans Advisory Board is having meetings right now discussing the Memorial Day and other things. So I think that's all I have.
Good.
Thank you, Rodney.
Good story.
Thank you, Rodney.
Good story.
On Sunday, there was I've been to other Eagle Scout events, and Sunday there was one for 7 Eagle Scouts. They did them all at one time. It was had to be 200 people there. It was held out in Weymouth, and I just want to say congratulations to those young men. We sent proclamations to them to mark their achievements. I'd also like to, I was at McDonald's when they opened it back up, and it was really good to see it back. It's a big improvement for that area of town to have something brand new like that, and maybe it'll helped spur that area a little bit. It was very nice to meet Bob Tra and his daughter, who pretty much runs the operation now, Karen, and we talked at quite length, and she told me a story that right before they had opened up, she moved the fence away that they had around the building, and as she opened it up for one of the contractors to get a truck in, 5 cars followed them in, like the place was open. So she said that they, it was good that they couldn't wait, but she wasn't much she could do for them. It's a very fascinating, they have the automated systems, the panels out in the front where you can either go up to the counter or you can use the panels. They have people there that will help you with it. And the thing that I really felt was most fascinating was that they are currently at 60 employees and plan on going to 80 employees, which you look at a place like that and you go, where do you put them all? But that's great. I mean, you just don't realize, I've never been a business owner. I don't know what it takes to run a business or how many employees it takes, but when you hear that, you're kind of taken back a little bit, like, wow, that's great. So they're a big part of our community. It's their second McDonald's. They have the one over in Hamilton Festival. So they are very good neighbors. They did a nice job. They did everything that we asked them to do as a township, and it turned out real great. So I want to congratulate them on their efforts, and thank you for the money you invested in our town.
Amen.
One other thing, I had a brief meeting on one day last week, it's all a blur right now, at the Verizon building. This is the one on Main Street that's been an eyesore for a lot of years, and I met there with our engineer and with Phil and Mike, and we had a conversation. A gentleman came down from North Jersey, and we may have found the right person. I know we've been chasing this for quite a few years, trying to get them to do something, to clean it up a little bit. Plant some flowers, anything. And we had a very productive conversation. So our engineer, he's going to get them a little drawing of what we think we could do there. We had done a conceptual drawing years ago, but the dollar signs that came with that drawing are a little more than what they can do. So we're kind of downsizing it a little bit. And to be honest with you, at this point, anything they do will be an improvement on what they have there now. So it's maybe a first step to getting Main Street looking a little nicer. And just like I said, just the first step. So thank you, Steve, Mike, Phil, for being there and helping out with that. That's all I have. So I'd like to open it up to the public comment. Anybody? Come on up.
Alberta Ivicini, Tavistock, 38 Gasco Road. I'm aware of all the issues concerning our roads, and I realize that there's a process, there's a project in process. But can someone explain how the actual dedication of the roads occurs? Like how do we actually transfer ownership or whatever to the township? Like, is there something that we should expect, some ceremony? I have no idea. I don't know.
Well, we want a party.
We're thinking a parade, perhaps?
Hey, yeah, really, can someone explain? Because that would be one
Bob,
of our
could
next
you
things.
handle that one, please?
What's going to happen is that once the court approves the settlement, Steve Filippone's office will prepare bid documents. They'll go out to bid. The low bidder will be awarded the contract, assuming they're responsive and responsible, and the work will begin. During the process of the work, Mr. Filippone's firm will be inspecting the work. And at the end of the project, if the municipal engineer approves it as being built as spec'd, they will bring that issue to the Township Committee, and the Township Committee will have on an agenda item a resolution or ordinance, whatever the need may be, to accept ownership of the roads. And once that happens, the township is responsible for maintaining the roads. But they have to be built to the specification.
The municipal engineer is different than,
That's one and the same.
they're all the same.
Yes.
Well, I didn't get that one.
Surely hope so.
And hopefully you will throw a party when this happens.
We're going to have such a celebration when this happens. Really do want all the roads looked at, all of them.
Yes.
I have a second question or request. Can you share some of your observations when you were there last Friday or the 11th, whatever day it was? Can you share some of your observations as to what you saw when you actually toured the road with a different mindset now that you're getting prepared to do this work?
You know, the one thing I notice is every time I go out there, it just feels like it's a little bit worse. You know, with this rain, you have infiltration where the stab bases separated. But I was, basically went around and took photographs, and if you remember maybe a month or two ago, you know, you guys had brought in photographs, and, you know, I'm seeing the same things. I just want to pick up if there's any, like, low points or drainage problems. One thing I noticed around all of the storm inlets, at the curb line, the B inlets, there's ponding around every one of those inlets because the asphalt, that extra 2 inches, doesn't allow the runoff to get into the inlets. And what I look at is all of these asphalt stab base in those areas have to get completely cut out. So you're going to have a brand-new road when I'm done. And I guess I've asked Lou that he be the point of contact for me. So I left it, you know, I talked to his wife. I've talked to him a couple times, but you'll see me around a lot, and Lou will be my contact person if that's all right with the association. So what I plan to do, we've been out there surveying. Once this is approved, the next thing I do is come out and I'll call Lou and I'll meet and we'll walk all the roads and I'll show him what I see. You tell me what you see, and we won't miss anything that way.
Okay.
While I'm out there, of course, I'll look at it. Now, that's different because they're township-owned streets. I don't want to get into that, but I will look at that. All I'll say at this point is, I will look at it.
Yeah,
I
that was
can't.
my third. That was my third. Will you actually look at those and take those into consideration when you're looking at
I don't think I can. Under this proposal, I think my boundaries are.
Okay. I agree with that. This, from what Mr. Sandman had said, the bond money is for unfinished projects. And those particular roads and the other two sections are unfinished. But can you give us your word that you will take a look at the roads, those two roads that were paved years ago, and make a recommendation to the township that something be done for those roads, because we have been paying the cost out of our pockets to keep them.
Steve, you can't answer that question. That's an unfair question for him.
Okay, all right.
That has to be addressed in the road program by the township committee.
Okay, so is that that's a different process? If we realize or if we feel that we need our roads looked at or examined, that's a different road for us to go down, a different process?
We're aware of it.
So you're not going to turn the roads over to us
Where are
in
you guys
perfect
located
condition,
again?
huh? You said you...
But see, you may all know this, I'm not sure we all understand.
What we have to do is, we have to do the repairs that are involved in this, am I correct?
The
In this
completion work.
Completion work. Once that happens, the roads will be dedicated, if all goes well,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Once the roads are dedicated, so I don't think and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I don't think we can do anything at this time, because the roads are not ours.
Agreed, but
So once they are,
after. And is that something that you all do in your own initiative? Or is it something that we have to bring to your attention to say, hey, nothing's been done to these two roads that were paved however many years ago, will you send someone out to take a look at those? If they are not done as part of this, and it seems like they're not going to be done as part of this particular initiative, what happens with those other two roads? Do we wait 5 years? Do we wait 3 years? Do we contact you? What do we do? Does someone come out and inspect them on a regular basis? What happens?
We have a Public Works liaisons. It's John Kurtz and myself. And every year, we go over the roads along with the Director of Public Works and the Administrator and the Engineer. And, you know, we make a list of roads and we prioritize them from the worst to the least. And if you notice, like this year, we're going out for a very aggressive road program this year, because what we're finding is every year, the list keeps growing, and we're trying to attack it the best as we can. So, yeah, and the fact that no one will promise you anything that they can't deliver, but it's on our mind, and that's one way it happens, okay?
Okay, Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Go ahead, Jim.
Now that sports betting is a reality, do you think the Langley racetrack can reopen as a betting place for sports?
Jim, that's a privately owned piece of property that I wouldn't even comment on because I don't know what the owner's intentions are. I mean, it's out there.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of other people in this region that'll jump right on it.
Yeah, the last president of the racetrack was a Marine, Bugden.
Mm-hmm.
Marine Gallagher, Bugden.
Anything else, Jim?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Brian?
My name is Brian Kurtz, President of Bays Landing Athletic Association. A lot of you guys know me from just being around here and doing some things in the field, coach and everything like that. I just want to say thank you to the committee, to the township. You guys have done a lot for us. The bathrooms we have down at Underhill, new bathrooms are beautiful. The hockey courts are unbelievable. It's great for the youth down there. The one thing I did want to bring up was the baseball fields. We had talked to Brett. We met Brett down there a couple times in the past year, and everybody's seen the fields down there. They get very bad. The flooding's horrible. I just want to see if there's anything we can try to come together and try to do for that. Not obviously right away. I mean, we pretty much are on that field nonstop, but we would try to get off there and use some other fields in order to make that happen. But I just wanted to bring it out, put it in front of everybody and see if we can do something with it at some point. That's it.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Stride?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In light of the good things that are happening, like McDonald's investing in our township and other businesses, I couldn't help but thinking of a contrast with regard to property maintenance. And the one particular property of interest to me, because I see it all the time, and I think you see it as you're coming to this meeting, is the large house just opposite of our digital sign at the Sugar Hill intersection. And I've raised this particular property several times over the years. There's a large tree that is leaning up against the house. I don't think it's occupied. There's shingles off the roof. And if you take that house now and look at the ones on 7th Street, who I think I mentioned several years ago when there was just a small hole in the roof, now the house is collapsing upon itself. The township is now spending taxpayer dollars to have the house removed or demolished, and there's a couple others. So my question is, what's the status of a property maintenance action on the house that I'm speaking of?
Mike?
Well, I know that it's been in court. I don't know how much I should say publicly about the processes,
I'm not familiar with it.
but they've been in court just recently, as a matter of
The
fact.
same ones he's talking about?
Yeah, the one he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's kind of up in the air?
Well, it's being worked on.
Okay, all right, okay. That's the status, it's being worked on? Okay, that's fine. I'll be back.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. We will adjourn to executive session. One of those items on executive session you might all be interested in. We will do our best to come back as quickly as possible if you want to hang around. Other than that, Rita?
Yep. Be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hamilton that this meeting be adjourned to an executive session to discuss the following matters, which are exempt from public discussion pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law. Tavistock bond settlement, attorney-client privilege, Teamsters contract, collective bargaining. Be it further resolved that the governing body may reconvene in public session and confirm the results of the executive session if there is a majority consensus for action to be taken on the matter tonight. Be it further resolved that the results of said executive session shall be made known as soon as the basis for confidentiality is no longer confidential.
Okay. We need a motion?
Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Second to go to executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. If you folks are going to stay, we can go to another room.
Second.
A motion is second to reopen the regular order of business. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We have a couple of different items on the table. First of all, the Tavistock bond settlement. Mr. Sandman, would you like to speak on that?
Yes, I would ask you to entertain a motion to approve the stipulation of settlement and release, which has been marked on for identification on today's date as A1, and authorize me to execute that stipulation in the form in which it appears.
I'll make that motion as stated by our solicitor.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need a roll call? Please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
There you have it. We did our part. Okay, we'll move on to the Teamsters contract.
Yes, we need a motion to ratify the agreement between the Township of Hamilton and the Teamsters Local 331 dated January 1, 2018 to December 31st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and
We
carried.
have one other.
Yes, we need a motion to approve a memorandum of agreement. The Township and the Teamsters agree to reopen the 2018-2020 collective bargaining agreement for the sole purpose of the possible inclusion of part-time employees in the collective bargaining agreement.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Rita?
Mr. Gishard?
Yes.
Mr. Kurtz?
Yes.
Mrs. Link?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
And Mayor Shanker?
Yes.
All yes and carried.
We will now
Motion to
have a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you.